Well, one thing's for sure, it's definitely an Ed Sheeran song. So today sees the return of the one and only Ed Sheeran. I say return, but he never really went away, did he? I mean, less than 2 years ago we saw the release of Ed's fourth studio album, Equals, with singles like Bad Habits and Shivers firmly placing Ed into the box of ultra-commercial mainstream drivel. Ever since Ed's debut album, in fact, we've seen a gradual shift in sound away from the DIY, acoustic-driven, stripped-back sound to a now more produced, layered and touched up, pitch perfect kind of sound. That isn't too dissimilar to the rest of the charts really, to be quite frank. For me, Ed's always maintained two very distinct songwriting styles that he's now renowned for. The first being the perfectly crafted acoustic ballad, PA system ready for weddings, bar mitzvahs and funerals. And then you have the genre transcending rap / hip hop acoustic songs with playful and witty lyrics using his guitar as a rhythm section. But for me, those two signature sounds that Ed's now become renowned for just felt somewhat diluted on his last album, Equals, which kind of left me a bit disappointed and a bit confused. I kind of just felt that that album fell short of everybody's expectations. I mean, he did set the bar pretty high, to be honest. Anyway, fast forward to the present day, and the Equals tour is still happening, I think. Despite that being the case, Ed is actually back with a brand new campaign and a new song and album on the way. Titled Subtract, Ed's fifth studio album is out on May the 5th of this year, and the album actually documents a specific point in time in Ed's life where he experienced hardship. He actually writes in his album trailer that the original intention for the album was to sculpt the perfect acoustic record, and that he'd actually been working on this collection of songs for almost a decade, before at the last minute deciding to scrap them all in favour of a collection of new acoustic songs that he'd written in just over a week for the album. He goes on to say that this was driven by two significant events in his personal life. The first being that his pregnant wife was actually diagnosed with a tumour and could only get treatment for it after the birth. And the second, his best friend Jamal Edwards dying suddenly. He goes on to say why he didn't use those older collection of songs, and the reason being that it just wasn't reflective of how he felt at the time given everything that had happened. Which is understandable, I get it. Sometimes even I write songs and I think 2-3 months down the line I don't really connect with that anymore. But to put a decade of songs that you've been whittling down over the years onto the back burner and replacing them with a collection of songs that you've written in just over a week is pretty bold. All I can say is they better be good. Because knowing that there's another album, unreleased, potentially gathering dust somewhere, must be so exciting and frustrating at the same time for Ed Sheeran fans. One can't help but wonder what it would sound like. I guess we'll just have to wait and see. But as of today, we do know what Subtract will sound like. Well, a little bit of it anyway. The first single from Subtract, called Eyes Closed, has been released to a somewhat underwhelming reception. The song itself actually has a great sentiment. It's about the sudden death of his friend Jamal Edwards, and Ed trying to process / make sense of that point in his life. He wrote on a recent Instagram post, "This song is about losing someone. Feeling like every time you go out and you expect just to bump into them and everything just reminds you of them and the things that you did together." The song and the upcoming album that it belongs to was produced by Aaron Dessner of The National. For those of you that aren't aware, he's the same guy that produced Taylor Swift's Evermore and Folklore acoustic records. And I sort of like what he's done here. The production definitely leaves the acoustic guitar and Ed's vocals as the centerpiece of the record, but at the same time contains some of the nice embellishments that you'd expect to see on a layered pop record as well. So is it a hit or a miss for me? Well, eyes closed, or rather, my eyes are closing, listening to this drivel. Just about the only thing I do like about the song is the fact that it sort of reminds me of the Smiths. Hang on just a minute. In the sense that the sound of the song is actually happy and quite upbeat, but the underlying message and lyrics are actually quite sad and dark. That's where the likeness ends, to be really clear. There is, however, just lots that I'm not a fan of. The song is just so formulaic for me. Don't get me wrong, it's like an expertly crafted, radio-ready 3-minute pop song. Just the right length and the right number of choruses and all that stuff. But it is sort of missing the witty and playful signature Ed Sheeran lyrics that you'd expect on one of these tunes. And apart from the repetitive eyes closed that happens too many tie-imes in the song. I'm just not sure what else there is to grab onto on this one. My point is, surely even he's bored of himself now. And when I listen to this, I feel like I've just been listening to the same song for years now. And the fact that this album was supposed to be a departure from his previous work, both in terms of sound and subject matter, well, it just doesn't feel very far away at all for me. The Guardian called it the most unradical of reinventions, and I'm inclined to agree here. Over time, I just feel like his music is becoming less and less diverse, more formulaic, commercial, and as a result, mainstream. A few years back, I remember he did this number 6 collaborations project or something like that, I think the album was called, where he basically did a song with every single big artist at the time, and one could view that as a creative outlet, but you could also view that as a tactical decision to expand your reach as far as possible, rather than choosing to embark on a truly creativity-led project that just explores new ideas, songwriting styles, sounds, layers, production techniques, etc. And that's kind of what I was hoping to see here, to be honest. The song will no doubt do exceptionally well, and I'm sure that hardcore Ed Sheeran fans are just going to love this, because it's just more of the same. But for me personally, it's just a little bit underwhelming. I was kind of hoping to hear more, something a little more exciting than what we got. It's just a bit boring hearing the same thing again. So sorry to any hardcore Ed Sheeran fans, this one just isn't for me. And I guess to summarise the sound of this new song, it's unmistakably Ed Sheeran. But 5 albums in, I don't think that's necessarily a good thing, if you know what I mean. So yeah, a little bit underwhelmed and frankly a little bit bored of Ed Sheeran's later work. Was kind of hoping for something a little bit different sonically. But what I'm way more interested is to know what you guys think. Do you dig his recent work and his recent sound, and are you excited for the Subtract album? Or are you kind of just getting a bit bored of this, like me? Let me know in the comments below what you think of this new song, and if you're excited for the new album, Subtract. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you very, very soon.